but they're eager not to implicate his old friend Donald Trump in anything. So they're talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, and this may be a sign that she's cooperating.
Former British socialite and convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell has been quietly transferred from a federal prison in Florida to a minimum security jail in Texas. The Bureau of Prisons source told the New York Sun that the transfer was, and I quote here, unusual. Well, let's welcome Sarah Baxter, Director of the Marie Colvin Centre for International Reporting. Sarah, good afternoon.
Yeah, hello there, Alexis.
What's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell? Why has she been transported from a high security federal prison to a minimum security jail in Texas?
There can only be one reason, which is that the administration regards her as a cooperating witness. Now, we don't know exactly what she is cooperating on, but obviously the Department of Justice under Donald Trump has been very embarrassed by the fact that they haven't given enough details of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. They're under pressure to release what evidence they have on him and his associates, but they're eager not to implicate his old friend Donald Trump in anything. So they're talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, and this may be a sign that she's cooperating, because otherwise, Alexis, there's absolutely no justification for it. Now, apparently, there are only two reasons, or or at least she falls foul of two reasons why people can be moved to a minimum security camp as opposed to the jail that she was housed in Florida. And she doesn't qualify. She's got a sentence of over 10 years, and she's also a sex offender. Now, on those two counts, she doesn't qualify for a softer jail routine, but here she is.
Now, of course, all this has to do with the Epstein files. Has Donald Trump got himself into a spot of bother, if you can put it that way? Because his reaction has always been, well, quite a lot of what's in those files has been made up. It was down to Biden, Obama, the Democrats, etc. To which Ghislaine Maxwell said, well, hang on, if all this has been fabricated, then why am I in prison? Is that what's going on?
I think so, yes. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, Donald Trump has said recently, he said, I want to release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt. Now, who is he thinking of primarily about people who might get hurt? I mean, he has been damaged by this controversy. But of course, the truth is that his MAGA base is now rallying behind him. Certainly all the podcaster bros who are loudly demanding answers have now fallen silent and moved on to other things because they've basically been told to shut up. There's nothing to see here by Donald Trump. And if you keep on making a fuss about that, there's only one person who's going to get really hurt, and that's Donald Trump. So I think the ground is being prepared for a possible pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, if not a pardon, at least a commutation of her sentence, so she's no longer in jail. And this camp that she's been sent to, Camp Bryan in Texas, is quite a cushy number compared to the jail that she's in. You know, you can do yoga, Pilates, you can be out in the open from 6 a.m. to, 7 p.m. or something like that, pretty much all day, maybe 9 p.m. I think it is, in fact. So you can literally be out all day. There are movies, you can do arts and crafts, and you're not supervised in the same way. You're not in a jail cell. Apparently you're in something called a pod. Mm-hmm. And it's just much, much cushier, and it's mainly for white-collar criminals. And Ghislaine Maxwell is not a white-collar criminal. She's a sex offender.
Sarah, just one final question briefly. You mentioned the podcasters seem to be falling in line behind Donald Trump, although Joe Rogan, I think, is still putting up a fight, and he does have a huge following. But will the MAGA supporters, will they be pacified by the podcasters, the influencers, or will they continue to seek answers?
Well, everything is in context. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help, for example, that the economy at the moment is having a bit of a hiccup in the US. So when you're talking about the actual MAGA voters, if they're feeling really good about themselves, their families and their prospects, they'll forgive Donald Trump anything. If they're not, they might say, well, is this really a hoax or is it a cover-up? But at the moment, there's quite an effort by some podcasters, and I take what you're saying about Joe Rogan, who tries to be more independent, that to suggest that Ghislaine Maxwell may somehow have been a victim of some sort of Biden conspiracy, even though she was jailed under Trump, and that or that she might be a victim herself, either of Jeffrey Epstein or of a Me Too climate that's harsh and unfair. So, there will be people willing to rally behind Donald Trump, whatever he does.
Okay.
But the voters might take a different view.
Sarah, thanks as always for giving us your time. Sarah Baxter there, Director of the Marie Colvin Centre for International Reporting.
So what is your understanding of what is going on here with Ghislaine Maxwell? Why has she been moved? She was, committed a very serious, terrible offences. Why has she been moved to a different low security prison?
That's a wonderful question, because I'm not understanding, and the survivors are not understanding why Ghislaine Maxwell there would be even consideration for immunity or to get pardoned. Ghislaine played a huge role in the recruitment and trafficking and sexual exploitation of these young teenage girls. That was the only justice that the survivors felt from the beginning. And now, if she's going to get pardoned or immunity, they feel that there's no faith left. Where is the justice? Who is this justice for? That they would let somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell go.
And of course, it's really important to say that the women at the heart of this story, the victims and those who had horrific things happen to them. They were young women. Of course, we know the very tragic story about Virginia Giuffre, who took her own life. I mean, how are the victims feeling about all of this? The fact that there could be some deal done, as has been touted. How are the victims and their families feeling about all of this?
Well, when Virginia Giuffre took her life, that impacted the survivors more than they even thought it would. They questioned if this was their path, and that the more they try and fight for their voice to be heard, are they going to be silenced? So after Virginia's death, and then the media exploded with Epstein yet again, this was a hit. They feel defeated. They have lost faith. And with Ghislaine saying that she has all this information and that she wants immunity in turn for all of this information, the fact is Jeffrey Epstein sexually exploited and abused these girls. He was the one who harmed and sexually violated these individuals. Ghislaine was right next to him during this process. So they're not understanding why this is all still in the news. Ghislaine was found guilty. She's serving her time. Epstein is dead. Why does it keep resurfacing? Who is this for? Who is there justice here? Or is this just gossip? They don't know anymore. And it's not fair.
Absolutely. And I think it's worth saying as well that a lot of, times people, something that's kind of misunderstood is the long tail of this abuse, and the long tail that it has casts a great shadow over women for the and men that have been abused as well for the rest of their lives. I mean, the pain, it's very difficult to kind of just erase what happened. But of course, Randy, now it has been reopened again because these Epstein files are back in the news. Donald Trump's name is being linked with it. That he's contesting that. He's now saying that he wants to not release these files. So this has become a big news story as well. Do you think that there should be full disclosure of these Epstein files? Because Ghislaine Maxwell is the only person who has faced any justice on this. And there are surely other people, other men who are involved, who are part of Jeffrey Epstein's circle of abuse and rape and sexual assault. Is it right that those names come out, or do you think the victims just want this whole thing to go away?
They want everything to go away because if you recall, a couple of years back, a flight log was released with names, if you recall that list. And there were many powerful people on that list. Nothing was investigated. There was no accountability then. So, what makes anybody feel, or the girls feel, as if there's going to be accountability now? If they want to heal in peace, all they want to do is heal in peace. And since 2008, there has been no peace. They're not able to hear in private because they are re-victimized every time they open their phone, every time they turn on the television. They're afraid to be able to just open social media for joy, because every time they do, they're reminded of what their past endured and what they endured back then and what they continue to endure. This is not for the survivors. I don't know who this is for, nor do they.